Do you find yourself overreacting, exploding at the slightest thing and sinking into anxiety? Then stop everything and listen. The peace you so desperately seek isn't out in the world. It lies in mastering your mind. If you don't learn this now, you'll remain trapped in the same cycle of frustration, guilt, and lack of control. But today, I'm going to show you a way out. In this video, you will discover 15 practical and powerful Stoic lessons to strengthen your mind, silence anger, and transform anxiety into balance. It's a true manual of self-mastery based on Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, applied to your everyday life. Before you continue, hit the like button. It shows me you're committed to your growth. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now. A lot of people watch videos and forget to subscribe, and then miss out on content that could change everything. If you apply what I share here, your emotional life will never be the same again. You spend half your life trying to control what was never in your hands, what people think, feel, or do. You try to mold it all as if the world were a board game and you the main player. But here's an uncomfortable truth. None of that depends on you. Epictetus made this clear over 2,000 years ago, yet we still ignore it. Stoicism teaches us that true self-mastery begins when you learn to let go. If your serenity depends on someone else's mood or external approval, you're selling your peace far too cheaply. Reflect. What do you actually control? Your actions, your choices, your attitude toward events. That's it. The rest is the universe's theater. Accept it or keep suffering. Imagine someone stuck in traffic, fuming with rage, pounding the steering wheel, cursing the driver ahead as if that would speed up time. Their anger boils because they believe they can change something there, but they can't. That daily anxiety, that lack of emotional balance comes from the illusion of control. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, something we tend to forget today. It's not things that disturb us, but our judgment of them. When you truly understand this, a kind of freedom begins to emerge. You start directing your energy not at external chaos, but at internal control. That is having a strong mind. That is personal growth. And no, it's not passivity. It's strategy. Do you want to start applying this today? Grab a piece of paper and draw 2 columns. In one column, list everything that worries you. In the other, list what actually depends on you. You'll be surprised by how much emotional clutter you've been carrying for no reason. From there, choose to act only on what you can control. That doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you invincible. When you learn to detach from what doesn't depend on you, the first level of emotional self-control is born. You become stronger. Your energy returns to the right place, and suffering begins to lose ground. Now tell me, are you really willing to keep handing over your power to everything that lies outside of you? Most people live as if they were their own emotions. They feel anger and become anger. They feel anxiety and let it dictate their actions, their words, their days. But that is an illusion. Emotions are not identity. They are passing states, like the weather. Stoic philosophy teaches, you can feel without drowning. You can observe without identifying. Epictetus said it's not events that disturb us, but the way we react to them. If you don't learn to create that space between what you feel and what you do, you'll remain a puppet of your emotions. And the worst part, you'll justify it by saying, this is just who I am. No, you're not your emotion, you just feel it. That's different and you can change. Do you know that sensation of imminent explosion when something deeply irritates you? Well, what happens in that moment is not a lack of reason, it's a lack of space. Space between the stimulus and the response. Anger arises, but you can still choose how to act. Anxiety invades you, but you can still decide how to breathe, what to think, where to focus. That space is where self-mastery lives. That is where a strong mind stands tall. Marcus Aurelius didn't stop feeling. He learned not to be carried away by every emotion as if he were a leaf in the wind. That is emotional self-control. That is true personal growth. Detaching from emotions isn't becoming a robot. It's becoming the master of yourself. Do you want to train this right now? The next time something pushes your buttons, don't react immediately. Just observe. Mentally say, this is anger. I am not anger. This is anxiety. I am not anxiety. Take 3 deep breaths. Feel everything, but don't act yet. Let the emotion pass before making any decision. Bit by bit, this simple practice transforms into inner power. And when you learn to observe instead of explode, you begin to build an unshakable mind. A calm warrior. a presence that unsettles those who live in chaos. Are you willing to stop being a slave to your emotions? You fear the worst, because you've never had the courage to face it head-on. Stoicism teaches that imagining the most adverse scenario is not pessimism, it's preparation. Seneca called it premeditatio malorum, anticipating adversities so they don't dominate you. When you visualize what could go wrong, you don't freeze, you strengthen. Your mind arms itself, your heart aligns, your body stops fleeing. Then anxiety loses its grip, because the unknown ceases to be a monster. Think of an important interview, a difficult conversation, or a possible failure. Now imagine everything going badly. You get a rejection, the criticism comes, the tone is harsh. What's left of you after that? That question is gold. Because if you're still whole inside, that's a sign of resilience. Self-mastery begins when you understand that surviving the worst scenario in your mind, before it even happens, shields you in real life. He who trains for chaos before chaos strikes remains steady in the eye of the storm. The practice is simple. Sit quietly for 5 minutes upon waking and imagine the worst that could happen today. Not to torture yourself, but to free yourself. Mental suffering arises from surprise, from the illusion that everything should follow your script. And when it doesn't, because it never does, you collapse. But one who practices the pre-mortem doesn't break, because they've already built inside what many seek outside: emotional balance. Are you training, or waiting to be caught off guard? Haste makes you repeat the same mistakes, only faster. You react before you understand, speak before you think, act before you feel, and then regret it. Stoicism teaches you to slow down so you can perceive what's really happening inside you. Epictetus said, "First learn, then speak." Impulsivity is the voice of an undisciplined mind. Conscious slowness is the ground of wisdom. Being slow isn't passivity, it's strategy. He who breathes before responding chooses freely. He who pauses before attacking is in control. Anxiety, anger, and impulses no longer call the shots. Stoic philosophy invites you to act with purpose, not on instinct, because acting in the heat of the moment is abdication of your inner power. Want a practical application? In your next argument, remain silent for 10 seconds before speaking. Count mentally, breathe, notice your body. That small pause can save a friendship, a contract, your peace. Slowness is not weakness. It's self-mastery disguised as calm. It's a strong mind saying, "I choose, I don't react." And you, will you remain a hostage of haste? Suffering grows in the mind that only focuses on what's missing. Anxiety feeds on comparison, and anger is born of frustration. But there is a powerful, simple antidote: gratitude. Seneca said that the ungrateful man is always unhappy, because he who fails to see what he has lives starving for everything. Practicing gratitude is not resignation. It's shifting your focus, stepping out of a scarcity mindset, and accessing a true serenity that comes from recognition. And yes, it must be daily, like brushing the teeth of your soul. Start now. Take a notebook and write down 3 things you're grateful for today. They can be small: a hot cup of coffee, an honest conversation, the fact that you're reading this right now. This exercise changes your internal state, silences anxiety, and realigns your perception. When you train yourself to see what you already possess, you begin to dissolve that constant feeling of being behind, insufficient, incomplete. Gratitude anchors you in the present, in the here and now, and the present is the only place where life truly happens. Moreover, when the mind gets used to gratitude, it becomes less reactive. Anger finds less room where there is appreciation. The urge to complain yields to the maturity of acknowledging, and inner control is born, one no one can take from you. So tell me honestly, are you looking at what's missing or what already sustains you in silence? The answer to that question defines your level of peace. You only understand the value of something when you feel you could lose it. The problem is that most people live as if everything were guaranteed: people, health, time. Stoicism gives you a reality check, and with it, it offers freedom. Marcus Aurelius visualized the death of his children in order to love them more deeply. Does that sound cruel? It's lucid. When you imagine loss, you value the present with a rare intensity. This practice doesn't rob you of peace, it awakens you, because living as if you were eternal is what breeds indifference. Try this for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine losing something you love. A place, a person, even your ability to see. Notice how your heart tightens, how your mind turns with more tenderness toward what once seemed ordinary. This is memento mori, the reminder that everything is fleeting, including you. And when practiced wisely, it doesn't depress, it liberates, because you stop postponing affection, gratitude, and presence. Practice it daily, for just a few minutes. Visualize loss to activate value. This dissolves anxiety and yanks you out of superficiality. You begin to engage with life more consciously, more reverently. Everything that was automatic gains color, and when the mind learns to value what it has, it stops chasing what it doesn't need. Are you ready to experience life more deeply? You think freedom is doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but that's the quickest path to slavery to your own impulses. Eating everything, buying everything, reacting to everything. That's not freedom, it's a prison disguised as pleasure. Stoic philosophy teaches that true freedom arises from moderation. Seneca said that he who is a slave to pleasures is not master of himself. And if you're not master of yourself, you'll be dominated by anything, a desire, a criticism, a fear. Moderation isn't repression. It's applied emotional intelligence. It's self-mastery setting strategic boundaries to protect what truly matters. When you learn to say enough, you free yourself from dependency. And this applies to everything. Food, social media, external validation, even your emotional reactions. 1 glass of wine can be pleasure. 3 bottles, escape. The issue isn't pleasure itself. It's unconscious excess born of anxiety. Want a simple test? Pick something you tend to overindulge in and abstain from it for 3 days. Notice the discomfort that arises. It will show you where your real dependency lies. And when you overcome that discomfort consciously, you discover a new power. The power to say no, by choice, not obligation. Moderation returns leadership over yourself. And now tell me, who has more power? The one who gives in to everything, or the one who chooses with wisdom? Most suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from mental resistance to what happens. You want things to be different, and when they aren't, you get frustrated, irritated, lost. But reality doesn't bend to your expectations. Marcus Aurelius said, "Love your fate." That doesn't mean resigning yourself to everything, but stopping the fight against what already is. Stoicism teaches that accepting the present is the first step to transforming it with wisdom and presence. Anxiety arises when you live in the future. Anger arises when you cling to the past. The present, no matter how imperfect, is the only territory where real power exists. When you resist, you get stuck. When you accept, you flow. And that acceptance isn't passivity, it's clarity. You stop wasting energy fighting the inevitable and start using that force to change what's within your reach with emotional balance. Practical exercise. Whenever something frustrates your plan, breathe and mentally say, "This is what it is, and I will deal with it." This simple phrase anchors you in reality, gives you internal space, and reminds you that internal control is stronger than external control. A strong mind doesn't demand the world to change to be happy. It changes itself and finds purpose even on gray days. And then, will you still insist on fighting life, or will you choose to dance with it? Obsession with perfection is a trap disguised as virtue. You demand too much of yourself, you sabotage yourself, you freeze, in all cases because you created an unreal idea of how things should be. But life doesn't demand perfection, it demands progress. Stoicism reminds us that the wise person isn't one who never fails, but one who learns from every mistake. Stoic philosophy values constant effort, not an idealized image. Pursuing perfection only fuels anxiety, pride, and guilt. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and philosopher, wrote in his journal as a flawed man striving to be better each day. He didn't seek perfection. He sought to be more just, more serene, more centered. That is true discipline, advancing a little each day, even if you stumble. One who understands this develops resilience and self-compassion, and one who demands perfection usually abandons everything at the first slip. Be brutally honest. Are you seeking to improve, or are you trying to appear flawless to the world? The difference is vast. One leads to personal growth, the other to silent frustration. Start small. Improve 1% each day in something that matters. And when you fail, Begin again with humility and clarity. A strong mind isn't measured by the absence of mistakes, but by how consistently it rises. What kind of strength are you cultivating? If you decide in the heat of emotion, prepare for the frozen regrets that follow. Emotions are intense, yes, but fleeting. Values are compasses. Stoic philosophy teaches that a life guided by principles generates serenity, while one guided by impulses produces chaos. Epictetus reminds us that what matters isn't what we feel, but how we choose to act. Anger wants to shout. Virtue demands silence. Anxiety wants to run. Virtue demands presence. Before any important decision, ask yourself, is this aligned with who I want to become? That question changes everything, because it cuts through the emotional fog and brings your essence forward. A strong mind isn't one that feels less. It's one that chooses with clarity even while feeling everything. And one who lives reacting to feelings drifts as if in a boat at the mercy of a storm. Simple practice. Write down your 5 non-negotiable values and read them before any big choice. This creates an internal anchor that shields you from impulses. Deciding based on values is choosing with awareness and purpose, and that generates peace even when the world collapses. So, what will guide your next step? Your momentary self or your ideal self? Most people see problems as punishments, but the Stoics viewed each difficulty as a training ground for the mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way." With that, he reframed everything. Anger becomes a test of patience. Anxiety becomes an invitation to presence. Discomfort becomes a gym for the soul. One who flees discomfort misses the chance to grow. One who embraces it evolves. Plain and simple. Imagine treating every tough situation as a practical exercise to strengthen your internal control. A delay is training in serenity. A criticism is a test of emotional self-control. A failure is a lesson in humility and resilience. Stoicism doesn't romanticize pain. It transforms it into a tool, because a strong mind is forged precisely when everything seems to be falling apart. Adopt this mindset now. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this here to teach me?" The difference is brutal. One thought makes you a victim, the other restores your power. And each time you respond calmly instead of with desperation, you level up in your own inner training. So, what challenge will you turn into training today? You are not alone in the universe, even if your mind tells you otherwise in difficult moments. Stoicism teaches us that we are interconnected parts of the same living organism. Marcus Aurelius compared humans to the fingers of one hand, different yet inseparable. When you grasp this, anger gives way to empathy, intolerance to respect, and the I expands to include the other. Developing empathy doesn't mean erasing yourself. It means remembering that everyone deals with something unseen. Stoic philosophy doesn't require you to accept injustice, but to understand human limitations. When someone hurts you, they act out of ignorance, pain, or confusion. And you, with a strong mind, can choose not to replicate that cycle. That is internal control. That is emotional wisdom. Stoic empathy practice. When you see someone acting poorly, think, "They're confusing good with bad, as I've done many times." That simple thought dissolves judgment and activates compassion. And compassion isn't weakness. It's strength that doesn't need proving. One who sees themselves as part of a whole acts with more purpose and less ego. And you? Do you react as the center of the universe, or as a conscious part of it? The way you talk to yourself backstage defines the stage of your life. While you mentally berate yourself for mistakes, serenity vanishes and self-sabotage takes its place. Stoicism teaches that a strong mind begins within, in the tone you use to treat yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every day, not with harshness, but with compassionate firmness. It was as if he were training his brain to think clearly amidst chaos. You would forgive a friend's mistakes, yet you judge yourself mercilessly. That's unfair, yet so common it goes unnoticed. The anger you direct at others often springs from internal cruelty you cultivate, and anxiety feeds on that same negative dialogue. You're not capable. It will go wrong. You're not enough. Those thoughts rob you of strength. The mind needs structure, and that starts with internal language. Creating a rational inner dialogue isn't denying emotions, it's giving them a healthy place. It's feeling anger without fueling self-destructive thoughts. It's acknowledging pain without turning it into identity. Stoic philosophy teaches us to observe thoughts, not be prisoners of them. Rationality isn't coldness, it's emotional freedom. When you name what you feel, you begin to reclaim internal control. Now add compassion to your reasoning. Treat yourself as you would someone you love. That doesn't mean coddling yourself, but being fair. Saying, "I made a mistake," is maturity. Saying, "I'm a failure," is cowardice disguised as humility. Self-mastery is knowing how to rise with dignity, not just punishing yourself for falling. A strong mind needs to be structured, but also nurturing. Try a simple exercise. Each night, write 3 encouraging phrases as if you were talking to someone you love. Then read them aloud to yourself. This re-educates your brain and trains your internal language. It may seem simple, but over time it transforms your relationship with your own mistakes, with the past, and with future anxiety. You begin to build serenity. Ultimately, the voice we hear most is our own. If it's cruel, we live at war. If it's wise, we live in peace. If it's compassionate, we live with courage. What are you telling yourself when no one else is listening? That is the true reflection of your strength or weakness, and only you can change that tone. You want everything to stay the same, but nothing in life remains still. Time slips through your fingers, cycles end, people change, and you resist. But resisting change is like trying to catch the wind with your hands. Futile, exhausting, frustrating. Stoic philosophy doesn't fight impermanence. It embraces it. Marcus Aurelius said that everything that is born already carries the seed of its end. Ignoring that is living in constant denial. Anxiety springs from fear of the new, anger from pain over losing the old. But serenity only blossoms when you learn to flow with life's rhythm. Stoicism teaches that accepting change is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's not giving up, it's adapting. A strong mind is like water. It navigates obstacles, fills spaces, yet never loses its essence. One who resists change suffers twice. First from what happens, then from not accepting what is. How many times have you clung to dead relationships, empty jobs, or outdated versions of yourself? And how much suffering could you have avoided by simply accepting that it no longer made sense? Attachment to the past is an anchor disguised as comfort. Stoic philosophy teaches us to release what is already dead with gratitude, not despair, because what fails to renew decays. Embracing change is starting anew with purpose. It's letting what no longer serves you die to make room for what can flourish. That demands courage. But true inner transformation happens precisely when everything seems to crumble. It is there, in uncertainty, that the new is born. When you accept that life is motion, you stop clinging to pain out of fear of what lies ahead. Simple practice. Whenever something ends, a project, a phase, an idea, write down what it taught you. Then write what is ready to be born in you now. This rewires your mind to see endings as disguised beginnings. It's the difference between suffering over change and evolving with it. Personal growth requires emotional detachment, and that is one of the greatest powers anyone can develop. The Stoic doesn't live on nostalgia or expectations. They live in presence and adaptation. They understand that what arrives will one day depart, and that's okay. There is no stability outside oneself. True emotional equilibrium arises when you decide to be fluid on the inside, even if the world is in turmoil. And then, tell me honestly, what do you need to let die in order to finally start living? Have you ever stopped to wonder why, even after achieving certain things, you still feel an emptiness that won't go away? Perhaps it's because you're living off your axis. The world taught you to chase results but forgot to tell you that without purpose, no achievement brings peace. Stoicism teaches that living with serenity is living in alignment. Alignment between what you believe, what you feel, and what you do. Marcus Aurelius said we should do good because it's the right thing, not because others expect it of us. That is purpose. It's not about recognition or reward. It's about coherence. If you need an audience to maintain your discipline, then it's not purpose. It's vanity. True purpose is silent, yet firm. It guides you on good days and sustains you on bad ones. Anxiety often appears when you live off-center, when you make decisions driven by fear, external approval, or haste. But when you have clarity of purpose, your choices become simpler, not easier, but firmer. The Stoic lives by virtue, not by emotion. And that virtue anchors behavior to values, not impulses. Living with purpose is saying no with confidence, rejecting tempting shortcuts that lead you away from your essence. It's moving forward even when no one understands because you know why. One without purpose sells out for any distraction. One with purpose stands firm even in chaos. That is self-mastery in its purest state. Want to find your purpose? Notice the moments when you feel peace after acting. That's a sign. Notice what fills you with energy even on tough days. Another sign. Purpose isn't in what impresses others, but in what nourishes you in silence. And if you feel lost, return to your values. They always point north. Now, aligning with that purpose demands courage, because you'll have to drop masks, speak uncomfortable truths, and disappoint the expectations you've created. But it's in that process that true emotional equilibrium emerges, because when your external life reflects your inner structure, conflict vanishes, and with it comes serenity. The practice is simple yet profound. Write down your 5 core values, then assess whether your actions, decisions, and routines honor them. Where there's incoherence, there's discomfort. Where there's alignment, there's peace. This is not self-help. It's practical philosophy. The Stoics knew that without values, the soul sickens. Anger is often the internal cry of a life at odds with what one believes. Anxiety is the symptom of a mind disconnected from its purpose. The path to serenity isn't external. It's built through small, coherent, daily choices. You don't need to change the world. You just need to act each day as someone who already knows why they're here. Living with purpose is living with presence, knowing each decision is a seed of the future, choosing what's right even when the easy path is available, having the strength to continue without applause because you know you're on the right track. Stoic philosophy doesn't try to convince you. It reminds you of what you already know, but fear to apply. So tell me, are you living to please others or to fulfill yourself? Do your actions reflect who you are, or who the world wants you to be? In the end, serenity isn't found. It's built, and it all begins with a choice, living from the outside in, or finally, from the inside out. Now share with me, which of these 15 lessons challenged you the most today? Which one do you feel you need to apply urgently in your life? Write it in the comments. I want to read about your experience and know where you are on this journey of self-mastery and emotional balance. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now and hit the bell. Many forget and end up missing the next content that could change how you think, act, and feel. The next video that will appear on your screen is the continuation of this transformation. Click and keep moving forward. See you in the next video. And remember, inner mastery is external freedom.